Greetings, everybody. This is Marcel Williams yet again with another talk on this beautiful Friday, the 7th of March 2025. I've been teaching on biblical prophecy, did several videos on that, but again, I'm going to take a shift and talk about something that's more general, that touches us immediately in our present time. What's up with this preponderance, this emphasis on church calendars? That is what I'm going to talk about. But before I launch into it, I trust that you're all well and that you will enjoy the video and that you will like it and also share it. And thank you for viewing my videos, and I appreciate it very much. As I said, I'll be talking about this issue of the focus, the emphasis on church calendars. But I'm not talking about a calendar that you put on a wall. I'm talking about the special days and celebrations that the church conducts during a year, and that all the churches seem to be falling into this thing where certain days are followed according to a calendar, a schedule. What am I talking about? You know, the mainline churches like the Catholic Church and the Anglican Church, etc., they have certain calendars, certain days that they observe, for instance, like Lent, Ash Wednesday, Maundy Thursday, Good Friday, Easter, Ascension Day, etc. I'm referring to that. One would think that after the struggle between Catholicism and the Reformed churches, that the Reformed churches would keep to what they originally decided upon as a protestation against what was Catholic at the time. But let me just refer to you historically. Back in the 1500s somewhere, a German priest by the name of Martin Luther discovered something in the Bible, and he decided to pin his or nail his 95 theses on the doors of the Wittenberg church in somewhere in Germany. It wasn't called Germany at the time, it wasn't unified, but it was part of the Holy Roman Empire. So the German states, or we could call them principalities, were not really unified. But be it as it may, he nailed his theses on the church door. And of course, it was in response to another German Catholic who went around from village to village collecting funds. He would say, for instance, to the villagers, put your money in this box, and before it reaches the bottom of the box, your sins will be forgiven. So the German priest, Martin Luther, had a problem with this because it wasn't scriptural. So hence the reason he protested by putting these 95 theses on the doors of the Wittenberg church. Now, of course, the Catholic authority, and namely the Pope in the papacy, got wind of this and actually summoned him as a priest to face the Pope in Rome. And he went there, and of course, it wasn't only once, he was summoned several times, but in each time he was asked to rescind his 95 theses, to retract on his stance, which was un-Catholic, it was against the faith. But he refused, and he was threatened that on pain of excommunication, he needed to do that. Of course, he didn't. And just to explain to you what is excommunication in the Catholic Church at the time was that if you were excommunicated, you were denied a position in the church, and in consequence, you were denied a position in heaven. So you actually were cursed not to go to heaven if you were excommunicated from the church. So his refusal led to a movement called the Reformation, and hence the struggle between the Catholics and the Reformation in Europe. It was mainly a European struggle, and it led to a 70-year war, which I've learned about in history when I did the course at university. And 70 years war is really very bad, and led to a lot of religious persecution. A lot of people today don't know about this. And a lot of the reformed people escaped Europe to the New World, which is also known as the Americas, and Africa. We got, for instance, the Huguenots. That's why here in South Africa and the Western Cape, we have the Huguenots, and the wine industry grew from these French people. They were French and Dutch that came to the Cape of Good Hope. But that's part of the history I wanted to share with you. But let's have a look at another side to it. Second point I want to say is that the Pope, the papacy, always regarded these breakaway churches, the Reformed Church, as wayward daughters of the church, and they still belonged to the Catholic Church. That was their view of things, and their view was that eventually these wayward daughters would return to their position under the leadership of the Pope in the Roman Catholic Church. But now back to the Reformists. The way I see it, the Reformers seem to have forgotten the struggle and their determination from the time of Martin Luther and other Reformed leaders to follow certain practices that were anti-Catholic in a sense. For instance, Lent, Easter, Ascension Day, Ash Wednesday, Maundy, Thursday were all very Catholic in a sense. Obviously, some of those things would the Reformers would follow because it's Christian, it's the life and ministry of Jesus Christ. But the point I want to make is that why are the Reformers forgetful of their stance on issues like that? Because they're following now something like, for instance, Maundy Thursday and Ash Wednesday. When I became aware of the Reformists, it wasn't a practice, say, 20, 30 years ago. In recent years, it has come in as if it has always been there. So I'm asking the question about it. How is this possible that we can see a situation where the Reformers have forgotten actually what it is to be reformed from that? The only changes that we really see still is that the Reformers don't have the lengthy liturgy in the services, in the worship services, as you find in the Catholic and Anglican Church. You don't get that much candles and incense burning in services. You still don't see statues in the churches, pictures and images, etc. You don't see a veneration of the person of Mary, and you don't see Holy Communion done every Sunday, every service, but at intervals in the Reformist churches. Those things are still a picture of Reformed churches. But what is the same also is that the Reformers have copied the Catholic Church, where the priest is always elevated to a high position on a pulpit that is actually high up, towering over the congregation, something that wasn't in the first Church of Acts, where people had more everybody participated in the service, and the priest or the leader in the service wasn't elevated above with extra robes and things like that. So if we look back also, the original problem was with Martin Luther was that indulgences, they called it indulgences, that thing where Johann Tetzel went around from village to village getting funding from the congregants, where they'll get forgiveness of sins if they just place their money in the box. There's a similar thing that has come around in the last 30 years or so, what we call the prosperity ministry, and we get prosperity pastors who become extremely rich and indulgent, very connected to that word indulgences, but in this sense, these pastors have benefited from the contributions of the congregation in terms of this. There's something very similar to Johann Tetzel and the Catholic Church in the time of Martin Luther. So many of the reformers I'm claiming here seem to have forgotten, or unless it's a case of it's hardly talked about or reminded or taught to the young people actually what it means to be a reformist and where does it come from. Because actually they can't say they're Protestants, because what are they protesting against if they're very much the same? They are similar. So I just wanted to share these ideas with you, and maybe you want to ponder about it. But be that as it may, this is something that we need to come to terms with, to have a look at, to see really what do we believe, where do we stand. Wish you a great weekend ahead.